Li Huan walked through the long hallway of Nexus Prime Station. His black diplomatic suit felt heavy on his shoulders. Today was another day of asking for help, and he already knew what the answer would be. The alien council members never listened. To humans, they treated his people like children who did not matter. The council chamber was huge. 7 different alien species sat in their tall chairs looking down at him. The Vorthak looked like living crystals that sparkled in the light. The Zephyrians moved their insect wings when they talked. The Nethros floated like clouds of gas, in glass containers. All of them were more advanced than humans. All of them controlled the galaxy. Honorable Council, Li Huan began. His voice echoed in the large room. I come again to ask for basic rights for my people. We need permission to travel beyond our home system. Our colonies are dying from a terrible sickness. We need the medicine to save them. The Vorthak leader made a sound like breaking glass. This was how they laughed. Ambassador Li Huan, the crystal being said, humans are still young. You have been in space for only a few hundred years. What have you given to the galaxy? Nothing important. The other council members made their own sounds of agreement. The Zephyrian clicked its mandibles. The Nethros swirled faster in its container. Li Huan felt his face grow hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. We have worked hard, he said. Human workers mine your asteroids. Human engineers fix your machines. Human farmers grow food for your worlds. We ask only for the chance to save our people. Work is what young species do, said the Nethros in its whispering voice. You must prove you deserve more. Your mining output will increase by 40%. Then maybe we will consider your requests. Li Huan's hands became fists at his sides. 40% more mining meant working humans even harder. It meant less time to find medicine for the sick. It meant more people would die. With respect, Council, my people are dying right now. Every day we wait, thousands more get sick. You have the cure. Please help us. The Zephyrian's wings buzzed with annoyance. Humans reproduce too quickly anyway. Perhaps this sickness will teach you to control your numbers better. The words hit Li Huan like a physical blow. They were talking about letting his people die on purpose. He opened his mouth to speak, but the Vorthak leader cut him off. This meeting is over. Increase your mining quotas, Ambassador. Prove your species has value, then we may talk again. Li Huan bowed his head and left the chamber. In the hallway, his legs felt weak. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. His daughter lived on one of the sick colonies. His grandchildren might never see their 10th birthday. Young human. Li Huan looked up. An old alien stood in the shadows. This was one of the keepers, the galaxy's librarians. This one looked very ancient with gray skin and tired eyes. Li Huan had never seen this species before. You are in pain, the keeper said softly. My people are dying, and no one cares. Li Huan replied. The old alien looked around carefully, then stepped closer. There are things your species should know. Old things. Before the hegemony ruled, before the Great Wars, there was a rule written in every star chart and every treaty. What rule? The keeper's voice became even quieter. Never anger the Earthborn, for they are the galaxy's sleeping giants. But that knowledge was buried long ago. The current powers do not want to remember. Li Huan frowned. I don't understand. Humans have never been giants. We are considered the weakest species in the galaxy. Are you? The keeper's old eyes seemed to look right through him. Your people work in every system, on every station, in every important facility. They know how everything works. They fix what is broken. They go places others cannot go. The alien paused. But perhaps I am just an old fool with old stories. The keeper started to walk away, then stopped. Ambassador, you might find interesting reading in the Deep Archives. Section 7, Alpha 9. Historical military records. Very old ones. Then the ancient being disappeared into the shadows. Meanwhile, far away in the Sol system, Captain Parknari received the message she had been dreading. Her ship, Terra's Hope, was mining asteroids near Jupiter. The work was hard and dangerous, but it paid enough to support her family on Mars colony. The communication came through during her sleep shift. It was from her husband back home. His face on the screen looked terrible. Behind him she could see their daughter Soo-jin lying in a hospital bed. The 10-year-old girl looked so small and pale. "The doctors say there's no more they can do," her husband said, tears in his eyes. "The medicine from Earth stopped working. She needs the advanced treatment that only the aliens have, but they won't give it to us." Park Nari stared at the screen long after the message ended. Her daughter was dying, and she could do nothing about it. The aliens had the cure, but they would not share it. They said humans had to earn it first. She walked to the bridge of her mining ship. Through the windows she could see Earth in the distance. It looked so small and blue. Hard to believe that billions of people lived there. Hard to believe it was the home of a species the aliens thought was not important. Her crew was mostly human, with a few aliens who worked as supervisors. The aliens always got the easy jobs and better pay. Humans did the dangerous work of actually going into the asteroid fields and collecting the valuable metals. "Captain," her first officer Kim Dae said quietly. He was an older man who had served in the Human Defense Forces before taking this job. "Any word about the medical supplies?" Park Nari shook her head. "They denied our request again. They say we haven't proven ourselves worthy." Kim Dae's face grew dark. "My grandson is sick too. This disease is spreading to all the human worlds. Meanwhile, alien worlds get medicine delivered the same day they ask for it. There has to be something we can do," Park Nari said. "Maybe there is." Kim Dae looked around to make sure no aliens were listening. "I have friends who work maintenance on the big stations. They hear things, see things. They say not all the aliens are happy with how humans are treated." On the engineering deck, Cho Mina worked alone. She was the ship's chief engineer, and she had a secret. For 5 years she had been taking apart alien technology piece by piece. Every tool, every computer chip, every power cell that came through for repairs, she studied carefully. The aliens thought humans were too stupid to understand their advanced technology. They were wrong. Cho Mina understood it very well. In fact, she had figured out how to make it better. In her private workshop, hidden behind false walls, she had built things the aliens said were impossible. Faster computers, more powerful engines, communication systems that could reach across the galaxy instantly. But she kept her discoveries secret. Something told her that one day, her people would need every advantage they could get. The aliens treated humans badly now, but they still needed human workers. What would happen when that changed? Her personal communicator beeped. It was a message from her brother on Earth. Another colony had gone dark. The sickness was spreading faster. The aliens were still refusing to help. Cho Mina looked at her hidden workshop. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Maybe it was time to let her people know what she had learned. The galaxy was about to find out that humans were much more than they seemed. But first, they had to get angry enough to show their true nature. That day was coming soon. 6 months had passed since Li Huan's last meeting with the council. The situation had become much worse. The human plague now affected 12 different colonies. Every day, transport ships carried more bodies away from the dying worlds. The alien council still refused to share their medicine. Park Nari held her daughter's small hand as Soo-jin took her last breath. The 10-year-old girl had fought the sickness for months, but without proper medicine she had no chance. Park Nari's tears fell on her daughter's pale face. Around them, the medical bay of Terra's Hope was filled with other sick humans who would soon die too. "I'm sorry, Captain," the ship's doctor said quietly. "We did everything we could with what we had." Park Nari kissed her daughter's forehead one last time. Soo-jin had wanted to see the other worlds beyond Sol system. She had dreamed of flying among the stars. Now she would never leave this mining ship. "Captain," Kim Dae's voice came over the communicator. "You need to come to the bridge. Emergency. Message coming in." Park Nari wanted to stay with her daughter, but duty called. She made her way to the bridge with heavy steps. On the main screen she saw Ambassador Li Huan. He looked older and more tired than before. "To all human vessels," Li Huan was saying. I must inform you that I have been arrested by the Hegemony Council. They claim I stole classified information. Before they take me away, I need you all to know the truth." The message continued with information that made Park Nari's blood turn cold. Li Huan had found proof that the plague was not natural. The aliens had created it in their laboratories. They had put it in trade goods and sent it to human worlds on purpose. "The plague was designed to kill us slowly," Li Huan said. "They have always had the cure. They chose to let our people die. They call it population control for inferior species." The message ended with Li Huan being dragged away by alien guards. The screen went dark. Park Nari stared at the empty screen. Her daughter had not died from bad luck or natural causes. She had been murdered. All the humans who had died in the past months had been murdered. "Those monsters," Kim Dae whispered. "They killed millions of us on purpose." Meanwhile, on Nexus, Prime Station, Kim Dae's friend was making his own discovery. Maintenance Chief Kim Soo worked in the deep levels of the station where few people ever went. His job was to repair the big computer systems that ran everything. Today, he was fixing a damaged data core when he found something strange. Hidden files that were not supposed to be there. As he read through them, his face grew pale with anger. The files contained records of the Hegemony Council meetings. Kim Soo read meeting notes that talked about the human problem and how to reduce their numbers without causing rebellion. There were lab reports about creating diseases that would only affect humans. There were shipping records showing which colonies had received infected trade goods first. The worst part was a video recording of the council voting. All 7 alien species had agreed to the plan. They had voted to commit genocide against humanity, and they had laughed while doing it. Kim Soo copied all the files onto a secure device. He knew he had to get this information to other humans, but the station's communication systems were watched by alien security. He would have to be very careful. He thought about his grandson who had died 3 weeks ago. The boy had been only 8 years old. Kim Soo had held the child as he died, promising that somehow the medicine would come. Now he knew the truth. The medicine existed, but the aliens had decided his grandson did not deserve to live. As Kim Soo worked, he did not notice the small camera watching him. In the security center, an alien guard saw him copying the files. But instead of reporting it right away, the guard hesitated. This guard belonged to one of the smaller alien species that the Hegemony also treated badly. He had seen how humans were treated, and it reminded him of his own people's suffering. The guard made a decision. He deleted the security recording and walked away. Some secrets needed to be shared. Far away on a hidden asteroid base, Cho Mina received Kim Soo's message. Her secret communication network had grown over the months. Human engineers, miners, and workers throughout the galaxy were now connected. They shared information that the aliens did not want them to have. When she read the files from Nexus Prime, Cho Mina felt a rage she had never experienced before. These aliens had not just refused to help humans. They had deliberately tried to wipe them out. Her own sister had died from the plague 2 months ago. Her sister's 3 children were now orphans. Cho Mina opened a channel to every human in her network. The message she sent was simple. They killed our children on purpose. They have the cure and always did. It's time to show them who we really are. The response was immediate. Messages poured in from human workers throughout the galaxy. Mine supervisors reported equipment failures. Engineers discovered critical system problems. Agricultural workers found pest infestations, all at the same time, all across alien space. But this was no coincidence. For the first time in 300 years, humanity was working together with a single purpose. On Mars colony, where Su Jin had been born, human workers received Cho Mina's message in their secret meeting place. These were the people who kept the colony's life support systems running. They maintained the air recyclers, the water purifiers, and the power generators. They murdered our children, said the chief engineer, an older woman named Han Soon. My nephew died last month. He was only 5 years old. Now I find out it was not sickness, it was murder. The other workers nodded grimly. They had all lost someone to the plague, They had all begged the aliens for help. They had all been told that humans had to prove their worth first. "What do we do?" asked a younger worker. Han soon smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We do what our grandparents should have done long ago. We remind the galaxy why our ancestors used to be feared." She opened a toolbox and pulled out devices that looked like normal repair tools. But these tools had been modified with technology that Chomina had shared through her network. They could shut down any alien system. They could take control of any alien computer. They could turn the aliens' own technology against them. "For 300 years we have been their slaves," Han soon said. "We fixed their machines. We grew their food. We mined their metals. We thought they were better than us because they had more advanced technology. But we learned their technology. We made it better. Now it's time to use it." Similar meetings were happening on every human world and every human ship. When people who had worked quietly for decades were revealing themselves as something much more dangerous. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a difference between being weak and choosing to appear weak. In the deep archives of Nexus Prime, the old keeper watched everything happen through the station's monitoring systems. He had lived long enough to remember the last time humans had been angry. The galaxy had barely survived that experience. The keeper opened an ancient book written in a language older than any current civilization. The title translated roughly to "Why the Stars Went Dark, A History of the Human Wars." He had been waiting 300 years for someone to need this knowledge again. Soon, the current powers of the galaxy would understand why their ancestors had written a simple rule: never anger the Earthborn. The sleeping giants were about to wake up, and this time, there would be no mercy for those who had murdered their children. The war that would reshape the galaxy had already begun. The aliens just did not know it yet. The Hegemony Council expected the humans to beg for mercy. They expected protests and desperate pleading. What they got instead was silence. Every human in the galaxy simply stopped working. On 47 different worlds, human miners put down their tools at exactly the same moment. Human engineers walked away from their repair stations. Human farmers left their fields. Human cooks stopped preparing food. In one coordinated action, the species the aliens thought was weak had brought their entire civilization to a halt. Council Speaker Thexnor called an emergency meeting. The crystal being's voice cracked with anger as he spoke to the other council members. "How is this possible? Humans are not organized enough for this kind of action. They are too primitive to coordinate across the galaxy." The Zephyrian leader buzzed its wings nervously. "Our mining operations have stopped completely. Without human workers, we cannot extract the metals we need for our ships and stations." "The food shipments have also stopped," added the Nethros representative. "Human agricultural colonies supply 60% of our food. Our people will be hungry within days." But the work stoppage was only the beginning. As the alien leaders argued, something else was happening throughout the galaxy. Human workers were not just leaving their jobs, they were revealing their true nature. Captain O.J. Wook stood on the bridge of his vessel, the Song of Earth. For 10 years, the ship had appeared to be a simple cargo hauler. Alien inspectors had boarded it many times and found nothing unusual. They saw cargo holds full of grain and mining equipment. They saw a crew of quiet humans who answered questions politely and caused no trouble. The aliens had never looked closely enough to see what was really there. O.J. Wook pressed a hidden button on his command chair. Throughout the ship, false walls slid away. Cargo containers opened to reveal weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The ship's hull shifted as hidden armor plating locked into place. In 30 seconds, a harmless cargo ship had become something from the aliens' worst nightmares. "All stations report ready, Captain," his weapons officer said. Lieutenant Kang Min had spent years pretending to be a simple cargo handler. In reality, she was one of the best military tacticians in human space. "Open a channel to the fleet," Ojewuk ordered. On his screen, 40 other ship captains appeared. Each one commanded what the aliens thought was a civilian vessel. Each one had just revealed weapons that should not exist. "Brothers and sisters," Ojewuk said, "our children have been murdered. Our people have been enslaved. Today, we remind the galaxy who we really are. Similar transformations were happening everywhere humans worked. On Nexus Prime Station, Kim Soo was no longer just a maintenance worker. The hidden tools in his repair kit were actually military-grade hacking devices. Within minutes, he had taken control of the station's defense systems. "This is Kim Soo to all human cells," he broadcast on the secret network. "Nexus Prime is ours. All alien weapons are now offline. All alien communications are being monitored. The prison where they hold Ambassador Li Huan is undefended." The rescue of Li Huan took less than an hour. Human workers throughout the station moved with military precision. They had memorized every corridor, every security system, every weak point during their years of simple maintenance work. When Li Huan was freed from his cell, he found himself facing people he thought he knew. These were the janitors, engineers, and cooks who had worked quietly in the background. Now they carried advanced weapons and moved like professional soldiers. "Ambassador," Kim Soo said with a slight bow, "we apologize for taking so long. We had to be sure the time was right." Li Huan stared at the transformed humans around him. "Who are you people really?" "We are who we have always been," Kim Soo replied. "We just stopped pretending to be something else." Across the galaxy, engineer Cho Mina was broadcasting from her hidden facility. But it was no longer hidden. The asteroid she had hollowed out now bristled with communication arrays and defensive weapons. What the aliens had thought was a simple mining operation was actually the command center for a network that spanned the entire galaxy. "People of the galaxy," Cho Mina said, her voice reaching every inhabited world, "you have been lied to for 300 years. You were told that humans are weak and primitive. You were told we are a young species that has contributed nothing to galactic civilization." On her screen appeared images that made the alien leaders freeze with fear. Ancient star charts showing human ships in every system. Archaeological evidence of human technology on worlds that claimed never to have seen humans. Records of human involvement in conflicts the aliens thought they had won by themselves. "We are not a young species," Cho Mina continued. "We did not appear in this galaxy recently. We have been here longer than most of you. We built some of the stations you live on. We fought in the wars that shaped your history. But we chose to step back. We chose to let you believe you were in control." The broadcast continued with revelations that shocked even humans who thought they knew their own history. Ancient human colonies that had been hidden for centuries. Technologies that had been deliberately suppressed. Military forces that had been waiting in secret for the day they would be needed again. The most stunning revelation came when Cho Mina showed footage of massive shipyards hidden in the empty spaces between stars. Thousands of human warships floated, in perfect formation. These were not converted cargo vessels or mining ships. These were purpose-built instruments of war, designed with technology that made hegemony weapons look like toys. "For 300 years, Cho Mina said, we hoped you would learn to treat all species with respect. We hoped you would become worthy of the power you held. Instead, you chose to become murderers. You created plagues to kill our children. You denied medicine to the dying. You treated sentient beings as property." Fleet Admiral Bae Sung appeared next to Cho Mina on the broadcast. He was an old man with scars on his face and steel in his eyes. Most aliens had never seen him before, but the oldest alien leaders recognized him with terror. He had commanded human forces during the last Great War before the hegemony had tricked humanity into trusting them. "I had hoped never to wear this uniform again," Admiral Bae said. "I had hoped my grandchildren would live in a galaxy where strength was used to protect the weak, not to exploit them. You have proven that hope was foolish." Behind him, the massive human fleet began to move. Ships that had waited in darkness for 3 centuries fired their engines and headed for inhabited systems. But these were not random attacks. Every target had been chosen carefully. Every strike would cripple the hegemony's ability to wage war while minimizing harm to innocent civilians. The Vorthak Council. Speaker tried to contact his military commanders, but found that all communication networks were under human control. The Zephyrian attempted to activate their automated defense systems, only to discover that the systems would not obey alien commands anymore. The Nethros realized that their most secure facilities were suddenly filled with humans who had appeared from nowhere. "This is impossible," the council speaker said. "Humans do not have this technology. They do not have these numbers. They do not have this organization." The old keeper appeared in the council chamber, moving slowly with his walking stick. The ancient being looked at the panicking alien leaders with something that might have been pity. "I tried to warn you," the keeper said quietly. "I left hints in your archives. I hope some of you would read the old records and remember why your ancestors feared the Earthborn." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it had been centuries ago. Star systems marked with human symbols, trade routes controlled by human fleets, technologies that bore human designs. Humans were never weak, the keeper continued. They were never primitive. They chose to withdraw from galactic leadership after the last Great War. They hoped that other species could learn to govern wisely. When you proved you could not, they decided to return. The display changed to show the current human offensive. It was not chaotic or random. It was a carefully planned military operation that had been prepared for decades. Human forces were striking at exactly the right targets, in exactly the right order to bring down the entire hegemony structure. But this time, the keeper said, they will not withdraw again. They will not trust you to do better. They have seen what happens when they show mercy to those who do not deserve it. As the old being spoke, reports came in from across the galaxy. Human forces had taken control of every major military installation. Every important trade route was now patrolled by human ships. Every communications network was under human command. The war was over, before the hegemony even realized it had begun. The sleeping giants had awakened, and they were no longer interested in hiding their power. The galaxy burned with the fury of awakened humanity. Admiral Bae Sung stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unbroken Will. Around him, displays showed the progress of human forces throughout the galaxy. What had started as a rescue mission for Ambassador Li Huan had become the complete destruction of the hegemony's military power. "Admiral," Captain Park Nari reported from the assault ship Sujin's Vengeance, "we have taken the Zephyrian home fleet. Their surrender was unconditional." Her voice carried satisfaction and pain. Every victory was for her dead daughter. But no victory could bring Sujin back. Park Nari's ship had been transformed from a mining vessel into something that struck fear into alien hearts. Her crew moved with the efficiency of people who had nothing left to lose. They did not fight for conquest or glory. They fought to ensure no other parent would hold a dying child while medicine existed but was denied. "Confirmed, Captain," Admiral Bae replied. "Proceed to the Vorthak crystal worlds. Show them the same mercy they showed our children." The human strategy was unlike anything in recorded military history. They did not try to hold territory or build empires. Instead, they systematically destroyed the hegemony's ability to function as a unified force. They cut communication lines, destroyed shipyards, and eliminated the infrastructure that allowed the aliens to coordinate their defense. But the most terrifying aspect of the human offensive was how much they knew about their enemies. Every alien species discovered that humans understood their weaknesses perfectly. The Vorthak found their crystal structures shattered by sonic weapons tuned to exact frequencies. The Zephyrians' hive minds were disrupted by targeted electromagnetic pulses. The Nethros discovered that their gas forms could be scattered by carefully designed atmospheric processors. "How do they know so much about us?" the Vorthak Council speaker asked during an emergency session. The remaining alien leaders had gathered on a hidden station, hoping to coordinate some kind of response. Intelligence Officer Yoon Tae appeared on their screens, broadcasting from the captured Nexus Prime. She looked like a simple data analyst, the kind of human who had worked quietly in alien offices for decades. The aliens recognized her as someone who had processed their reports and filed their documents. "You really want to know?" Yoon Tae asked with a cold smile. "Every treaty you signed, every military report you filed, every strategic plan you made, it all crossed my desk eventually. I have been reading your secrets for 15 years, learning your weaknesses, planning for this day." She gestured to the humans working around her. Meet your janitors, your cooks, your repair technicians, your data clerks. We have been in your offices, your homes, your military bases. We cleaned your floors while listening to your conversations. We fixed your computers while copying your files. We served your food while memorizing your security codes. The alien leaders finally understood the scope of their mistake. For 3 centuries, they had surrounded themselves with humans, thinking these people were harmless servants. Instead, they had invited their enemies into their most secure facilities and given them access to their deepest secrets. On the industrial world of Kepler Prime, the hegemony made their last desperate attempt to turn the tide of war. They activated ancient weapons that had been held in reserve for centuries, planet-killing devices capable of destroying entire worlds. These weapons had ended the last human rebellion. The aliens hoped they would end this one too. Engineer Jiang Wu watched the massive weapons power up from his position on a nearby asteroid. He was the human who had been maintaining these weapons for the past 5 years. The aliens thought they were getting routine maintenance and upgrades. They had no idea what he had really been doing. Fire when ready, the Vorthak weapons commander ordered. The planet killer fired its beam at the human fleet. For a moment, it seemed like the weapon would work as designed. Then, something went wrong. Very wrong. Instead of destroying the human ships, the weapon beam reversed direction. The planet killer's own energy tore through the alien fleet that had fired it. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The massive weapon itself melted into slag as its own power consumed it. Jiang Wu smiled as he watched the destruction. Routine maintenance, he said to himself. The aliens should have read the fine print in the maintenance reports. Similar weapons failures happened across the galaxy as the hegemony tried to deploy their ultimate weapons. Every device the humans had been allowed to service had been quietly sabotaged. The aliens discovered that their most powerful tools would destroy them if they tried to use them against Earth's children. Captain Lim Hyun led the assault on the hegemony's main weapons research facility. This was where the plague had been created. This was where alien scientists had laughed as they designed diseases to kill human children. Remember, Lim Hyun told his troops as they prepared to board the station, these are the people who murdered millions of our families. Show them exactly the mercy they showed our children. The research station's defenses had been designed to stop conventional attacks. They were not prepared for humans who understood their technology better than they did. Security systems turned against their operators. Automated defenses targeted alien personnel instead of human attackers. The station's own computer systems helped the human forces find and destroy everything they needed to eliminate. In the central laboratory, human soldiers found the alien scientists who had created the plague. Dr. Vexthul, the chief researcher, cowered behind his desk as Captain Lim Hyun approached. Please, the alien scientist begged. I was only following orders. The council made us create the biological weapons. I never wanted to hurt innocent beings. Lim Hyun looked at the laboratory around them. Samples of diseases designed to kill. Humans filled every shelf. Research notes described how to make the sicknesses more painful and harder to cure. Videos showed alien scientists celebrating as their creations spread through human colonies. You recorded yourselves laughing about dead human children, Lim Hyun said quietly. You made a game of how many innocents you could kill with each new version of your plague. The captain raised his weapon. You want mercy? My 5-year-old nephew died screaming from your diseases. His last words were asking why the medicine would not come. The medicine you had but chose not to share. Dr. Vexthul closed his eyes, waiting for the end, but the shot never came. When he opened his eyes, he saw Captain Lim Hyun lowering his weapon. I am not like you, Lim Hyun said. I do not murder helpless beings, even ones who deserve it. But you will spend the rest of your life in a human prison, thinking about every child you killed. And you will help us create cures for every disease you designed. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human forces captured the people responsible for the genocide. But they did not simply execute their enemies. Instead, they forced them to face what they had done and work to undo the damage they had caused. By the end of the 4th day of fighting, The hegemony had ceased to exist as a military force. Their fleets were destroyed or captured. Their leaders were in human custody. Their ability to coordinate any kind of resistance had been eliminated. But Admiral Bae Sung was not satisfied with military victory. He knew that defeating armies was only the first step. The real challenge was building something better to replace what they had destroyed. All human commanders, he broadcast to the fleet. Phase 1 is complete. The enemy can no longer threaten our people. Now we begin Phase 2, justice for the dead and healing for the living. The galaxy had learned why the ancients had warned never to anger the Earthborn, but they had not yet learned what humans did with their power once they had it. That lesson was still to come. 6 months after the war began, the hegemony was gone. In its place, something new was being born. The final meeting took place not in the sterile council chambers of Nexus Prime, but on Earth itself, the blue planet that the aliens had dismissed. As the home of a weak species now hosted representatives from every corner of the galaxy. They came not as conquerors meeting the conquered, but as equals gathering to build a better future. Ambassador Li Huan stood in the same place where his ancestors had first looked up at the stars and dreamed of traveling among them. Around him sat the leaders of every major species in the galaxy. Some came willingly, curious about what humanity would do with their victory. Others came because they had no choice, their military forces destroyed and their governments collapsed. We gather today not to celebrate victory, Li Huan began, but to mourn the dead and ensure their deaths have meaning. Behind him, a massive wall displayed the names of every human who had died from the alien plague. Millions of names scrolled slowly past, children who would never grow up, parents who would never see their families again. Grandparents who had died alone while medicine that could have saved them sat unused in alien warehouses. But the wall also showed something else. The names of aliens who had helped humans during the dark times, security guards who had deleted surveillance footage, engineers who had shared technical knowledge, medical workers who had tried to treat human patients despite orders not to help. These names were highlighted in gold, marking them as friends of humanity. Some of you ask what we want, Li Huan continued. You expect us to demand tribute, to claim territory, to impose our will upon you as you imposed yours upon us. That is not our way. Captain Park Nari stepped forward. She now commanded the memorial fleet, human warships that had been converted from instruments of war into symbols of peace. Each ship carried a library containing the stories of those who had died in the plague. Each ship was crewed by volunteers, who had lost family members and chosen to honor their memory through service rather than revenge. We want only 3 things, Park Nari said. First, that no species shall ever again face genocide while others possess the power to help. Second, that advanced medical technology shall be shared freely among all peoples. Third, that strength shall be used to protect the weak, not to exploit them. She activated a holographic display showing the new galactic charter that human legal experts had drafted. It was not a document of conquest, but a constitution based on principles the galaxy had forgotten: equality among all sentient species, cooperation instead of competition, and the responsibility of the strong to care for the vulnerable. This is the Terran Compact, Park Nari explained. Any species that agrees to these principles will be welcomed as an equal partner. Any species that refuses may remain in isolation within their own systems. Any species that attempts to harm others will face the combined response of all who have signed this agreement. The Vorthak representative, a younger crystal being who had replaced the old council speaker, raised a shimmering hand. What guarantee do we have that humans will not use their power to dominate us as we dominated you? Admiral Bae Sung answered, from his position near the memorial wall. The old soldier looked tired, but his voice was strong. You have the same guarantee we had when we trusted you 300 years ago. Our word, backed by our actions. He gestured to the memorial names, flowing behind him. Every one of these people died because we believed that beings with power would choose to use it wisely. We were wrong about you. Now you must decide whether you will be wrong about us. The Zephyrian delegate clicked her mandibles nervously. Your military forces remain intact while ours have been destroyed. How can this be an equal partnership? Engineer Chomina stepped forward with a device in her hands. It looked like a simple computer tablet, but every alien in the room recognized its significance. This was the control system for humanity's hidden military networks, the shipyards, the weapon systems, the communication arrays that had made their victory possible. This device controls every hidden military asset humanity has built, Chomina announced. Every secret weapon, every concealed fleet, every advanced technology we have developed. She held it out toward the alien delegates. We are placing it under the control of the new Galactic Council, to be used only for the defense of all member species. The aliens stared in shock. No conquering species had ever voluntarily given up their military advantage. Most expected some kind of trick or deception. There is no deception, Li Huan said, reading their expressions. We kept these forces secret because we did not trust you with the knowledge of their existence. Now we are choosing to trust you again, hoping you have learned from our mutual mistakes. The Keeper, the ancient librarian who had warned Li Huan so long ago, shuffled forward with his walking stick. He looked at the assembled delegates with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. I have lived long enough to watch this cycle repeat many times, the old being said. A strong species rises to power. They begin with noble intentions. They promise to protect the weak and maintain peace. Then they grow comfortable with their power. They begin to see other species as tools to be used rather than people to be respected. Eventually, they become the very evil they once fought against. He pointed at the human leaders. These beings have seen what happens when power is used without wisdom. They have paid the price for trusting others to use strength responsibly. Now they offer you the same trust they once gave, despite having every reason to refuse. The debate continued for hours. Some alien species immediately agreed to join the new compact. Others demanded guarantees and modifications. A few declared they would rather remain isolated than accept human leadership. You misunderstand, Admiral Bae Sung said to those who spoke of human leadership. We do not seek to lead. We seek to ensure that no species ever again has the power to commit genocide while others watch and do nothing. He activated another display showing the structure of the proposed Galactic Council. Humans would have no more voting power than any other species. Decisions would be made by consensus, with the understanding that military force would be used only to protect those who could not protect themselves. The Nethros representative swirled uncertainly in his containment vessel. What happens to those of us who participated in the plague program? Who voted to let human children die? Captain Lim Hyun, who had captured many of the scientists responsible for creating the diseases, stepped forward. You will work to undo the damage you have caused. The scientists who created the plague are already developing cures for other diseases that affect vulnerable species. The politicians who approved the genocide program are helping to write laws that will prevent such atrocities in the future. You will not execute us or imprison us forever, the Nethros asked. We are not like you, Lim Hyun replied. We do not kill helpless beings, even those who deserve it. But you will spend the rest of your lives making amends for what you have done. You will help build the galaxy you should have created, instead of the one you chose to build. As the day continued, more species agreed to join the compact. They signed not just because they feared human military power, but because they began to understand that humanity offered something different. A chance to be part of a civilization based on cooperation instead of domination. The ceremony concluded with the installation of a memorial on Earth's surface. It was not a monument to human victory, but a reminder of the price of hatred and the value of compassion. The names of every being who had died in the plague were carved into black stone, along with a simple message. Here stands the monument to the galaxy's hardest learned lesson. A species capable of infinite compassion is equally capable of infinite wrath. Never forget which one you choose to invoke. 50 years later, Li Huan's granddaughter, Li Da-young, served as the first president of the Galactic Council. The human plague had been eliminated throughout the galaxy, and the technology that once belonged only to the elite was now shared freely among all species. Children of all species learned the story of the human war as both a warning and a promise. They learned that those with power have a responsibility to protect those without it. They learned that genocide and oppression would never again be tolerated. Most importantly, they learned that strength without wisdom leads only to destruction. The memorial fleet still patrolled the galaxy, their presence a reminder that humanity's greatest warriors were those who fought not for conquest, but for the protection of all who could not protect themselves. Parknari's daughter was remembered on every ship, along with millions of other victims whose deaths had purchased a better future for their children. In the deepest archives of the new Galactic Library, the old rule remained, updated with new understanding. Never anger the Earthborn, not because they are ruthless, but because they are just. And there is nothing more terrifying than justice backed by unlimited power and unbreakable will. The sleeping giants had awakened, had shown their power, and had chosen to use that power to heal instead of to harm. The galaxy was at peace, protected by those who remembered the cost of that peace and were determined never to let it be forgotten.